Guys, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Advisory Board, a podcast where we bring in experts from the franchise community to give you updates, insights into like how do you build a memorable brand that's going to last and thrive. Now, today I've got a friend of mine. If you don't know Angela Olea, you're going to very soon, but she is a pretty incredible human, done a lot of things. She's kind of a boss lady that's like built a brand. She exited, helped run it, then left, and she's starting some new things I'm going to talk to you about. But to brag on her for a minute, so you know why I wanted her to be here. Right now, she's the founder and CEO of Sweet Influencers. It is an influencer marketing platform. You're going to learn a lot about what that means today. And it's the first of its kind to really formalize and build this type of a systematic way to harness the power of influencer marketing. But she'll tell you more about that in a minute. But the reason why she and I know each other, she's been in the industry for a long time, franchising. She's the founder of Assisted Living Locators. It's grown to over 166 units. That's pretty sweet, right? And she was a disruptor. She was the first person that had this idea to build a business model around that and then to franchise it. And then she's also a tech nerd. She didn't bring her glasses today, but she is definitely somebody who's been building tech-enabled systems, and she thinks outside of the box. So you're going to love the way she thinks. She's got 3 patents. She's written a children's trilogy that's actually in editing, publishing. It should first book, the Gorgon's Trunk, should go live this December. Is that right?
That is correct.
So my eclectic, successful friend, like tell us a little bit more about you. What are some other things people should know about you and about Sweet Influencers?
Yeah, so sweet influencers. I actually met a gentleman on a plane. And at the time I was running assisted living locators, and it was in January 2023. Andrew Steele is his name. And he didn't know anything about senior care. I didn't know anything about influencer. The way he talked about influencers, which is what it is today. I knew the Martha Stewart of influencing, who was the OG of influencing,
Hmm.
TV magazines, everybody wanted to be that household, person. But I met Andrew on a plane and it took root. That just absolutely took root. And he had to tap out of the conversation. I absolutely just drained his brain dry of everything, all things influencer marketing, and I was inspired. He was my muse from that point going forward.
That's amazing. And so, Angela, as we jump into this, so you guys have built this, you're building, right? And I've already built a bunch, but you're going to continue to invest and build this out. First, what like everybody thinks of like some celebrity doing a dance on TikTok and like my influencer marketing, how could that possibly help my franchise brand grow? But the problem is they're thinking about this narrow niche of like young adult influencing rather than real like brand influencing. Can you share maybe a little bit more about how does influencer marketing actually work for brands who get it?
Yeah, and that's the wonderful thing about what this is. So, influencer marketing, I'm going to start off with the nano, micro, macro, and then the celebrity. And so, what we're really focused on is a hybrid mix of nano and micro influencers. And so, those influencers have a radius, and I'm going to say 15, 20 miles of where they're at. Could be depending on their location, but I'm just going to say up to 20, 25 miles. That they have a following, and the following may be 1,000 to 10,000. And so their following is small, but it's real. And it's something that they've been building brick by brick and genuinely have a following. And so then you step up to the micro, who's a little bit higher. And so theirs is 10,000 up. And so those are the two that we really focus on, and the conversion rates so are going to be significantly higher with your smaller than with the micro. And it goes, to the celebrity influencer. They're going to have because their audience is so large, their engagement rate is going to be the lowest,
Hmm.
but their impact is going to be huge, and they can be from 20,000 to $100,000. A nano influencer might be somebody who, and I'll give an example from a quick service restaurant, somebody who for free bagels, may go and do it, taste it, love it, be a true fan, and be able to tell their friends about it. And so somebody may spend, and then they're going to do content. So it could be something that's from free to a small amount. Um, and so the rate could be gifting and a small amount up to $600 of what you're paying them to do a video and create this authentic video that is going to be made up of their own natural personality. You can't tell them what to do, and that's what makes it unique. Everybody, there's not a cookie cutter, it's not scripted. It's very, very different. And so if we have a product, and I'll just give pizza, for instance, again, food, but it can be done for so many different brands and so many different purposes. But for ours, for pizza, you might think of the mom that is busy on a Friday and having pizza with her family. You can think of a football coach of a little league that's celebrating with those kids, a college student that's just hanging out. So you've got all of these different people that may be in that same range that are going to be promoting their favorite pizza in different ways. And that's the uniqueness, is that authenticity of somebody who is homegrown in that area that has a true following within that radius of the franchisee.
I love that. And we've all seen. Hopefully, you've seen. There's some celebrity influencers. There's a small platform where you can like reach out to them and they can like sing happy birthday to your friend or something like that. Like that's kind of cool and a little chintzy. But the micro and the nano. This is I actually have not ever talked to someone who's done anything even close to this before because that's where the real influence lies though because these are close enough to you that you probably know them or you feel like you know them because they're in your backyard. So people build pretty strong rapport with these folks, and there's a lot more. Would you say there's more trust from the consumer to the influencer with a nano micro than there is to celebrity, typically?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And again, but their reach is going to be significantly smaller
Mhm.
in how they do it. But that's what makes it so good. And you're able to work with a lot of them versus one celebrity. It's hit and miss. You really hope you get it right when you're investing that 20,000 on up to get it. You're really hoping you hit the mark on that and you've got one shot to get it right. With the nano and the micro, you might have, 4 to 6, and you're able to stagger. And that's what utilizing AI and using that hybrid of human technology, that's what we're learning and relearning. What sentiment, what is the best, how do you create that magic, and how do we duplicate that for that same brand in multiple states? Or it might be 4 different types of people that we're looking for that are going to hit, you know that are going to spark something in different age people, or maybe open different markets that they didn't even perceive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my brain, it's spinning right now because I'm thinking of all these applications, right? I mean, obviously, there's the consumer goods, there's the home services categories, where there's the elderly care. I'm sure this is what sparked this all for you originally, right? And senior living or assisted living locators. We're trying to help these services. There are a lot of ways that you can leverage this on a B2C level at scale in franchising if you only had, right, a tool that could help you to do that in an organized way, right? So I love the vision of what you've built. Tell us just a little bit about like the thing that comes to my mind is balance. Like, how do you help them to balance authenticity while they're also promoting your brand, right? Because that feels like you're being almost a little disingenuous. How have you been able to? Do you coach them to how to do that? Is it something they naturally do? You completely unscripted and say, "Hey, I want to engage you, and this is what I'm trying to accomplish," and you just let them do it, or how does this work in
That's
practice?
where the research goes into when we're looking for influencers and we're filling that funnel. We are looking for the sentiment. We're looking for their past posts. How did they perform? Have they done anything where they've done brand mentions of any type of product? So we're going and looking at a combination of things to see, is there is the person that they've been representing, would that be a good representation of the brand? And that comes from political to a lot of different things. So we're looking from, looking at these posts and pulling, and also making sure that the followers are authentic, because there's fake followers, there's bots, there's boosting, there's different things. So there's ratios that we've calculated in our tool to see if they're going to be a sweet fit
Mhm.
for our brand. And I did want to point out we've done a few pilots, and one of the pilots that we worked with, one of the brands, it's an estate sale company, which that's a fire sale. You can only do 3 days, so in it it's not like the long-term value. The bottom line with this one, their targeted audience in the past had been women 35 and older, and we hit 20 somethings for thrifting. And and so it has blown up this whole new breed of people that are followers for the estate sale, to where it was a huge boom for their business and the long-term value of their friends and followers, and continued growth. So there's the immediate, and then there's the long-term benefit that we're able to by looking at the different influencers, we're able to see things that maybe they didn't. So again, thinking outside the box.
No, I love that. There's and that's something that's really important here. I mean, if you do a flyer in the mail, right? Like let's talk about other like that has more staying power than a digital display ad, right? By a long, long shot. But the staying power of influencer marketing is interesting. I've never thought about that before, that the residual effect, because it's not just
It can be. It can be. There's a big pain point. What we've seen is people are they're trying it, but they're wasting thousands of dollars by not understanding how to find them, what you're looking for, how to measure, and the tools. And so it can be a big waste, like anything. It's trial and error. But that's where, when you've got that vetted creator network, and you've got companies that you're working with that are duplicating and doing it over and over again, from the contract to the offerings, and knowing how much to offer and what all you can do to buoy, because they'll do this, and you're able to, there's certain postings they're doing it on theirs that you're maximizing their followers if they post it. But you're also able to do some whitelisting where you can do ads on that as well, or you can do some posting on that. You also, for another fee, can use that long term for your own, and generate it on your site and get leverage for advertising. So it can be cut, sliced, diced, and promoted for that longevity in multiple ways that you can really maximize those dollars.
Yeah, so it sounds like there are a couple of real key building blocks here to have proper influencer marketing. One, you have to know the right person to approach.
Yes.
And I want to just talk through what I'm hearing you say, and then let's maybe go back to some of them. So you got to be the right person. Obviously, you could really screw this up if you get someone who's like crazy offensive, and they play like you're in like a let's say a more leftist community, and all of a sudden they drop like the devil is a Democrat on their feed, right? Like hilarious song, by the way, but that's not the right person to like have like to represent you. And if that's associated now with your brand, whoops, like that could be a real problem. And it gets worse than that, right? So the right person, they have to have the right audience. And that's I don't know how people analyze that, honestly. Like so right person, right audience. And then you have to be able to contact them and get them to do something. So they usually have to have a history of doing stuff like this to be successful. And what else? What are the other success criteria that you guys have found make
You have
for
to
a
have the
good?
right contract in place, and
Mhm.
you even have to make sure the Federal Trade Commission, you have to put that it's an ad or it's sponsored. So you have to be transparent if you are being represented by a brand, and disclose it. And the hashtag, the Federal Trade Commission, they're looking at that, and they can sanction, because if you don't do it, that can be a problem as well. And you have to have the right contract with them, because if they did an ad and you took that ad and you sliced and diced it, now you could be in breach. Or if they're playing music in their ad that is not licensed, now you've got another set of problems. So there's some unknowns that can be, they're little unknowns that can cause big problems. And those are things that working with an agency, that they're trying to really be protective of that, and really get those roadblocks, out of the way, and set you up for success, and help educate you on the rules of the road.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I can see the landmines here. I mean, can you share like I'm sure there's just all sorts of horror stories of people goofing this up and doing it wrong. Do you have any examples of that where like somebody went really wrong because of something like that that I would never have thought of, like them using the music in their video, but I paid for the ad. Now it's my liability. Like an example of that?
Well, I mean, there's big brands that have done like some fails that have happened, like Skims with the Kardashians. They had advertising and they didn't have advertising on that, and they got sanctioned. There's others that put a makeup. Well, I believe it. I'm not going to say the brand, but there was a big makeup brand that they were promoting mascara, and they were using fake lashes on the and so it wasn't authentic where they're saying, oh, this is amazing, but yet that some of the influencers were actually using fake lashes and they called them out for that. But on a smaller scale, we personally have had where we've had where somebody sliced and diced and used different influencers and really combined them in one piece of marketing, and we had to go police it and say, you're not permitted to do it. And they pulled it right away. But so we're learning as well, really say it again, make sure they understand it, and make sure they really understand, what they can do and what they can't do. And, or if they're going to do it, they need to pay and get permission. That's it.
Yeah.
If you're going to
That's
do it, do it right.
I love it. Well, these are great examples. I bet you if we thought about, we could probably come up with another dozen or so that were just awful. They like blew up in somebody's face for other reasons. But how well like how does somebody get smart about this? Are you guys providing resources on your website, blog posts, things where people can just get smart about this? Because I wonder what
We're doing
resources
a
are out
lot of
there.
posting about, yeah, we're doing 2 and 3 a week, and we're about to put out a newsletter as well that'll have some different tools and tips of what to do and what not to do. So
Mhm.
we're building that. um, as we're growing. When I mentioned Andrew Steele when he was the inspiration, but as I was getting ready to launch, I worked with a gentleman named Chris Johnson and hired him as a consultant. And Chris Johnson was on Shark Tank. He's got 17 patents. One of his biggest one was rapid ramen. And I was on Shark Tank, and Mark Cuban offered him. So he created Major Views Influencer Company to promote not only the rapid cooking, series that he had, but he was also doing it for other brands for their products. And so while I was still at Assisted Living Locators, I hired him to, start doing some data dumping and really help educate. So my last day was the end of December, come January 1st, I already had a team ready to go, and his team trained my team. He had already sold out his other company, and was the non-compete and all of that was done. But he really helped educate us on the rules of the road so that we didn't have to find those landmines on our own.
Wow, what a blessing to get a connection like that. Somebody who's been there, done that, and done it well. That's amazing. Well, so talk to me. So let's talk about bridging franchising and influence. Let's now bring it back home, right, to our peeps in the franchise fam. Where are some ways, or how should franchise brands be thinking about this? Put yourself in the situation of your Marcy Kleinsasser, right, over at HFC for frandev, or your Leanne Caruso and or Lindsay Simpson, and you're actually coaching, a half dozen brands each on how to do marketing better. Like, how should people in that position be thinking about using this? Let's talk about frandev for a minute, and let's talk about the consumer marketing side because they're different, but I think there's a lot of parallels.
Yeah, there absolutely is. So, it's a lot of reverse engineering, and it is truly creative thinking. So you're looking at your end user. Who is your end user? And then what is a circle of influence around what are they doing? Even from what social medias are they on? Is it YouTube? Is it TikTok? Is it Facebook? Is it X? Is it Instagram? So each one has a little bit of a different audience that they hit, and it's constantly evolving. I'm a TikTok addict, so um, And so, but a lot of my friends, like I would say 85% of my friends are not. That so everybody's kind of got their own, and so that it's reverse engineering, and then it's some of it is going to be trial and error. The good thing is the geography. Getting franchising is very geo, specific. So that's the good part is that we're able to define what ages are we looking for? Are we looking for a male? Are we looking for a female? What, you know, that that that's the part where you just really reverse engineer, and then it's thinking outside the box. How do you intersect with them? And uh, that's essentially it. And how many ways can you do it? Because you want to hear the message over and over and over again, and you want to hear it. If you hear it a little bit differently, it resonates with you. And so it's repetition that we're trying to do and really trying to stack it and get that algorithm going um, so that it continues, we're riding the wave. Because the worst thing is that, and that's where it's really trusting the process. You
Mhm.
know, can we hit grand slam the first time? Yeah, we can, but sometimes it's trial and error with it.
Mhm.
There's other times that we've got to make small adjustments, with how we're doing it. And when we see where we're getting a rise, if we've got four influencers doing it, who are the top two? How quickly did they do it? How do we boost that? How do we duplicate that? And so we really are watching so closely the comments, making sure that we're getting the right audience in there, and we're able to pivot quickly. Again, with if you've got a famous person that you're doing, you're not going to be able to do any of that. It's on. Yeah, the light switch is you've once you turn that light switch on, it's on. With the nano and the micro, we're able to modify and adjust and tweak and maybe sub out one of the influencers. So we're doing A/B testing constantly with what we're doing. So for our pilots that we're doing, they've got to do it at least 4 months with us. That's the minimum. The first month is really that discovery process. What do you think you know? And then we may come up with different things. Have you tried this? And if they've never tried it, but they're open to it, we can open up a whole new opportunity with that. And are they willing to explore? Now
Mhm.
we've also been contacted. What makes a difference is being franchisors. I was contacted by a service brand for it was a restaurant brand. Their franchisors do not let them have a social media present, and they approached us about
Wow.
getting their pizza restaurants up and doing advertising. And I just said, I'd love to do it, but based on what I know about what I did the research on here, and it sounds like they don't permit that. Would you like to get,
Would you like to introduce me to the
yeah,
marketing
I
manager at
would
the
be
home
more than
office?
happy to have
Yeah.
that conversation and see if we could do a pilot with you with their blessing. But I don't want to start off, really not going about it the right way. And that's what being a franchisor, I've been a franchisor and a franchisee. And
Mhm.
being the franchisor, I want to make sure we're doing the right thing for the right reasons and, not starting off, doing things that for brands that they have their reasons why they do what they do.
Yeah. Yep, that's it's fair. Well, I love these are really critical things for a franchisee who might be thinking about doing something to be checking, franchisors who might be. Here's the thing, like we Amy and I owned a franchise, I owned a couple of territories, and we did really well. And there was a big argument about social media, right? And so there are need to be guardrails. You got to have some safety to protect the brand.
Yeah.
The answer, in my personal, very strong opinion, is the answer isn't don't have it. The answer is build guardrails around it, right? And give people coaching and or standardize it. There are all sorts of AI platforms now that can automate your and standardize, make sure you stay on brand with social media posts. Like, boy, there are way better answers. But if you're, I mean, these things are new and social, like these social influencer marketing is you're building a platform to do it. If you're not doing it, I promise you, someone's going to figure out how to do it with AI or someone's going to figure out how to do it with Angela and your brand's going to get left in the dust. You have to be a little more nimble than that. as a franchisor right now. So yeah, tell me
Yeah.
like tell me your thoughts on that because I hear that all the time and I'm like, why do you
No,
block it?
I agree. I agree. And I've seen some of the brands that, do it on that have tremendous advertising, that tremendous presence, Crumble Cookie, Dave's Hot Chicken, they're doing Domino's has some epic, influencers doing the spinning and
Yeah.
craziness, that they're doing. But I do think that franchisors need to lean into
Mhm.
what's happening. And if they don't control the narrative, they're going to be they're going to be reactive, not being proactive. And I think they
Yeah,
need to
for
really get
sure.
in front of it because it's got just to drive, those unit economics, that's what it's all about. And if the franchisees are making money, it's going to be greater validation, which is going to sell more franchises, bring more royalties. I
Mhm.
mean, the domino effect is huge. And so we've just got so much opportunity with influencer marketing to
Mhm.
leverage, affordable leveraging of this that I think it's really important to, for the franchisors to do it. And that's where we're going,
Mhm.
we're building a platform that they're part of a platform, like the company Assisted Living Locators has 6 sister companies that are part of that. So it
Yeah,
can be controlled up at the top, down, the franchisor down, and then we also have it set up for individual franchisees or franchisees with multiple territories.
yeah. Love it.
Um, so, also products, it's set up, with those different things in mind, and for the viewing and the controls to be as much or as little, um, to do it. And then if a franchisee does it, we've got it set up where then the franchisor, if they onboard after, they've got ability to access the history and duplicate.
Perfect. Well, you bring up a couple of things that we've got to dive into for folks. One is measuring impact, and the second is anticipated budgets, right? Because I think people hear this and they're probably like, "Oh, I can't afford to get Mark Cuban to come and do my thing," and they're missing the point, right? That there. So let's first talk, if you don't mind, let's talk about measuring impact, right? Like because anytime I spend $1 on something, I want to know did I get $2 at least or three or four out of that? So how do these folks measure the impact of the social media or the social influencer on their revenues, on their brand?
My tool is we're getting our website. We're probably about 4 weeks away from having it, but I've developed an ROI tool
Nice.
because each
Mhm.
job, you're right, is going to be different. If you've got a cabinet company that you're doing, that job might be $35,000.
Mhm.
Whereas if you have coffee, your average job might be $10.
Right.
If you've got power washing, your average residential might be 1,500.
Yeah.
So, what we've got an ROI tool that you drop down and see what your tool is, for it. And it may be something, again, the lifetime value. So if you're doing coffee, you're going to have the lifetime value. How frequently are they doing it? If you've got a mobile pet grooming, that's probably once every 6 weeks or at minimum 4 times a year.
Yeah.
So you've got some that are repetitive, your kitchen cabinets, you're a one and done probably, you know.
Yeah, but
So
walking away with 25, 30 G's, that's okay, right? Like, yeah.
exactly. So it is something that we have to measure out. What is the length? When are you going to recoup that money? And what is the foot traffic that you need to do that? And for each brand, again, it's going to be a little bit different based on what is your average ticket price. And so we've got a drop down. It's like 15 different brands with all the subcategories underneath it, whether you're getting eyebrow waxing, or uh, you're doing lighting, Christmas lighting, things like that. So we've got ranges of what is the average cost. And then, here's a tool and what we're aiming for minimum engagement rates and the dollar amounts.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. And really the only way to measure, right? It's almost like PR in a way because it's not like you're gonna unless you have are you helping people create like measurable outcomes because the influencer has a specific domain or a QR code, or like how are we getting conversions from these? Because that's, I think, the moment where you can start to get very granular with your measurements too, right?
Yeah, it and that is one of those things. So if you've got a product, so you know you've got a great thing. So if you're talking about franchise development, for instance, boy, that sales cycle on that and typical sales cycle on typical leads are 100 to 1. For that, depending on what you're paying for that in the real world, the general world, and in this, so in that there is definitely that's where you've got to rely on that word of mouth on who clicked, who did this, but that tracking on something like that is really, there's a lot of honor system in that for not only that, because they may go directly to that brand. And so that was kind of loosey goosey. That's probably the loosey goosey of that. And I know that as a franchisor, where I'll have the same person come through two different, I got they found me on my website, but then a franchise consultant said, "Yeah, I talked with them on Monday and told them not to call you. Then they called you on Tuesday."
Hmm.
So it's one of those things that there is some responsibility that you're representing. You've got to be tight with what brands are you promoting
Hmm.
and being in
Yeah.
communication with those brands through that. But if it's a QR code, yeah, for like mobile dog grooming, you've got your QR codes, or if they mention a discount code, then they get a discount, a 20% discount, on that product. So a lot of it is associated where if it's for I'll mention massage. If it's, there's going to be something, they get a discount if they mention that code that they have. And if it's going to that site, then it's a tracking. So there's definitely, as much as we can, we're doing that. And like with I mentioned the estate sale, that was something where they don't do a clicker, for the head count that comes in. She just said it's quadrupled, that she actually brought on another team and has
Wow.
had to turn away jobs while was building out, that it had such an impact over a 2 month, 3 month period. And, hearing that was amazing.
Hmm. I love that. That's incredible. And that when you were talking about it, I was thinking ROI, ROI. How do I measure? It's a little bit like PR, right? You measure the lift, though, right? You know your benchmark. And this is a key thing, guys.
Yeah,
If you're going to do this, you have to know what your benchmark data looks like. What is my
100%.
what's my run rate look like? And now, okay, if you're like a brand new store opening, like it'd be a great grand opening thing. Going to be really hard to measure the impact if you do it. I'm not saying don't. I mean, do it, but it's so much easier to measure impact if you have a
What's your
benchmark data.
baseline?
Yeah,
Yep. What's your
baseline.
baseline? What have you been running? Because we really can't control what the sales cycle is. Is somebody answering their phone? Or are they doing, but we can
Right.
track what is the following count? What is the engagement rate? What are our minimum numbers that we expect? Was the audience did we hit, and we really got four different things that we're trying to see, like you mentioned, a grand opening, or are they having like a special promotion because it's Mother's Day, or it's, they're doing some sale that they're doing, or are they just trying to do some brand awareness? um what is their motivation, because it's going to slightly change on the followers or on the influencers that we're trying to get and how they're promoting it.
I love it. So measuring ROI, absolutely doable. You just have to be prepared for it. So you got to come into it just like you mentioned this in a roundabout way, but like you have to really have your ICP dialed in. You got to know who your ideal client is, what their profile, what their demographics, what their psychographics, where are they getting their information. Like, you've got to do a deep dive of that first. If you don't have that data, it's going to be really hard for Angela and her team to help you figure it out. They're going to have to consult you first to help you figure out who you're trying to really sell to and influence, and then you can work with it. So those are two key things I was just thinking. You got to come prepared with baseline data so you can then measure impact. Also know what's your LTV, what's your lifetime value. If you don't know that word, your also what your average ticket item, because
Yeah,
it's so, and also the regularity of the consumption of that ticket item, like you said. Really key things. Like painting is an interesting one because you think about painters like it's one and done. Not really. Someone's going to paint something in their house, depending upon the demographic, once every 2, 3 years, sometimes every year. And so that it can almost become a recurring revenue model. And that's anyway. You and I will have to talk offline. I had a crazy idea about that the other day, but there's if you understand these pieces of information, then you can work with someone like Angela, at Sweet Influencers. They can truly help you dial it in. So that's part A. Part B of the question though was, what does it cost? Like, what should people anticipate if you're going to engage a nano or a micro influencer for a single market? Like, what type of cost range should they be expecting for an engagement with an influencer like that?
Yeah, I would say 2000 is, to have a mix of influencers, and it's going to vary too if they have, if there's any gifting, if there's, for the dog washer, he was giving away a free dog wash, and, a lower, supplement on that, we were able to stretch that dollar. So in our outreach to the influencers, are you receptive to gifting? Is gifting in lieu of, if they're the nano, their goal, a lot of the nano influencers are working full-time other jobs. They would love to be full-time creators. So they love an opportunity to do the best that they can, and they're going to really try as hard as they can. But it is like herding cats because the outreach, the outreach, if they're working full time, it's 100 to 1 on the outreach. So we can, in our email system, we can reach out 1,000 influencers, and the percentage of that, maybe it's a 10% that we get. So we've got the auto that we're having to stay after them, DMing and doing those things. So it is a until now, if they're bigger, maybe they have an agent, and that is, you're able to work with the agent and everything is very orderly. So that if they don't have any gifting or anything like that, that's still, for the influencer alone, having a healthy mix that we're going to be able to shuffle and stack. That I would say 2000 is really that minimum amount that we want to, really adjust and play with. And it may be something where we see we can double down and, okay, we're getting this kind of a return. Let's bump it up a little bit. Let's double up. And maybe one of those influencers end up being an ambassador. And now that person can be on, like that spokesperson for the brand. You may have some other ones, but that one consistently is doing, time after time. So it's some shuffling and adjustment, and that's where the human hybrid with the AI, until you get it and get it right and get it dialed in.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. So I love the idea that for 2,000 bucks you could get the local influencer to really drive business towards you. Does that mean is that like a one and done engagement, or is that 2,000 bucks? Is that like a couple of different things? Like how does a typical engagement like that work?
So they've got different, they might do one or two posts. So they might have an Instagram, they might have a YouTube video that they're going to create. They've got a certain length of time that they have to do it. You've got to approve it. We look at it first, and we're like, great. So they may create a couple different videos for you. So if we've got 4 influencers, that might be 8 to 10 different staggered ads that they're doing. And so we're trying to, it may be one every other day. It might be, however we're going to stack it. And again, watching that engagement to see if we can catch it just, with that algorithm, and is it creating a buzz where they're flurrying, doing it all at one time.
Mhm. Cool.
So,
Okay. So the engagement style may vary a little bit. It's not necessarily going to be
again,
like, here,
depending
here's
on the
one
product
post.
that you have,
Yeah.
and what we're trying to promote at that time. Is it a grand opening? Is it a special? Like the estate sale, you've only got 3 days that they're going to be at this house, and they have to post it on the day of, because they can't post it the day before because that house could get robbed.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. I
Here's a
never
loaded
never
house with
thought of
all
that.
this jewelry. Look at these great, beautiful things. So there's so many things that you have the timing of it, that for that specific. No, you cannot post the address the day before. It has to go the day of,
Mm.
when they've got it fully staffed. And there's reasons behind that. And that's
Yeah.
part of what we think of and what we do.
That's crazy. Oh, well, this has been awesome. So, Angela, let's say somebody listening to this says, "Oh my gosh, like I got to get a consultation. I got to figure out how to use this. This is exactly what I need." What's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can connect with me on LinkedIn for number one as a brand, but our website, sweetinfluencers.ai, and we absolutely give free consultations. We meet with you, discuss the brand. We'll let you know if it's a good fit or if we don't think it's a good fit. It might not be the timing for it, depending on that. We've got to make sure that we're a good fit and that realistic expectations.
Love it. This is great. Now, a couple of key highlights, right? One, this is affordable and maybe more affordable and accessible than you thought it was. Two, making sure you've got measurement, ROI. You've got to be able to have baseline data, know your ideal client profile, so you can target the right people, say the right thing with the right influencer to attack the right audience. And also, social like influencer marketing is a real thing that's viable that can generate real revenue. I love the example you gave uh,
I
the
say
gr-
so.
the estate sale, thank you, where they quadrupled their revenue using this type of social influencer marketing. So, what else would you add on that? Any other key nuggets somebody should definitely take away before we wrap this up?
Yeah, really, if you've ever been influenced by anything you've seen on social media, recognize it. If you've bought something because you saw it on social media, apply that to the business. Because I can say I've been influenced. I have a house full of goodies that I've been influenced by. So it works.
I feel like you need to get like your t-shirt should say "got influenced," right? And like or like
All right.
isn't that hilarious? Well, Angela, you've been fantastic. Thanks. Well, I'll definitely I need to follow up with you personally about a couple of interesting questions I have about this topic, but it's been informative for me. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to Angela as she shared some of those things.
Thank you very much.